Okay. Dr. G.N. Hariharan is Executive Director, responsible for Research and Development and Policy Government Affairs in MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. As Executive Director, he has more in MSSRF, he has more than 30 years of experience in the field of biodiversity conservation and related. His major area of research include lichen and ecological indicators.
Yeah, thank you. You know, in every meeting of this sort, one particular session will be the heart of it. There may be several, pardon? Yeah. So there will be several sessions, but one particular session will be the heart of the whole program. It started, you know, brewing when we were almost ending up the last session. People were asking why this access and benefit sharing is not happening. So I have a very wonderful panel with me. Shri Dipal Rai Chowdhury, Joint Registrar, Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Right Authority, Government of India. Ms. Shalini Bhutani, Senior Legal Researcher, Policy Analyst, FAO, New Delhi. We had a very good conversation today. By profession, she is a lawyer. And Mr. Dinesh Balam, who is closely working with, you know, the Government of Odisha, especially Department of Agriculture. He is from Vasan, Hyderabad. Have very rich experience in really working with the tribal farmers here, and how exactly these things can be, you know, practiced on the ground. But when the brief note here, it says, discussing the potential areas of farmers' rights in the Article 9 of the International Treaty, as well as PPVFR Act 2001, and ABS policies linking context to the globally important agricultural heritage region and farming communities. We have a very, you know, important task ahead, in the sense, what is this Article 9 of International Treaty, and what is there in PPVFR Act 2001, and what are all the ABS policies and so on. You know, along with me there are 4 speakers. Maximum each one of us will take 10 minutes, and we will have ample time for you know, discussion. As a lead speaker, I wish to go first and make a small presentation, and then I will invite others. See, when it comes to scope and opportunities for operationalizing farmers' rights and access and benefit sharing, at least on 5 major topics, I was analyzing what these international and national laws are saying. When it comes to protection of traditional knowledge, Article 9 of the International Treaty says, you know, by and large, I will tell at the end of that whole 5 slides, that all these things culminate in providing the benefits to the farmer at the end of the day. So kindly bear with me, I have to run through because I have prepared it, you please hear me. Recognizes the importance of promoting traditional knowledge relevant to plant genetic resources. PPVFR Act 2001 emphasizes the protection of traditional knowledge and the rights of farmers to save, use, exchange and sell farm-saved seeds. ABS policies also advocate for equitable and sharing benefits arising from the utilization of traditional knowledge and genetic resources. Our globally important agricultural heritage context also, regions like Koraput, Odisha, traditional knowledge is crucial for maintaining the agrobiodiversity. Without that traditional knowledge, whatever germplasm we have, we may not be able to understand what it is at all. Equitable and benefit sharing, yes. Article 9 again says promotes equitable participation in sharing benefits arising from utilization of plant genetic resources. PPVFRI also almost provides mechanisms for benefit sharing, ensuring that farmers receive a fair share of the benefits from the commercialization of plant varieties. ABS policies also focus on fair and equitable sharing of benefits. GHS also set the context of benefit sharing can support the livelihood of the farming communities. Livelihood of the farming community is very crucial. In the GHS region, helping them sustaining their traditional agricultural practices. This is the fourth pillar. Participation in decision making, very crucial. Encourages the participation of farmers in decision making process. PPVFRA Act is saying ensure farmers' participation in decision making. ABS policies advocate for involvement of local communities in decision making. GHA's context also advocate for involving farming communities in decision making. In a weak pillar so far, rights to save, use, exchange, and sell seeds. Article 9 of the International Treaty recognizes the right of farmers to save, use, and exchange. PPVFRA Act also says explicitly provide farmers rights to save, use, and exchange and sell seeds. Yes, informal system. ABS policies also support the right of farmers. GAHA's context also, rights are essential for maintaining the agrobiodiversity and resilience of farming system. Conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources highlights the role of farmers in the conservation. PPVFRA encourages the conservation and sustainable use of plant varieties. ABS promote conservation and sustainable use of resources. GHS also almost resonate with all these things. Then what? Why still there are gaps? Fine, gaps and opportunities. When there are gaps, there are also opportunities for us to act upon. In the traditional agrobiodiversity conservation, very diverse bioresources, and they are widely distributed. It is not the, for example, in countries like Peru, where the potato diversity is there, almost the Andes are endowed with very many varieties of potatoes. I don't think there may be some provisions available elsewhere where they have collected these resources and really benefited the communities. But in the context of India, if you really look at, we have very diverse bioresources, wonderful regions rich with agricultural biodiversity. In this region, if we say rice, some other area is known for millet, some other area is known for certain vegetables and things like that. And they are widely distributed widely, and limited awareness among stakeholders and consumers. Especially, we have to share our shoulders with the farmers, where with respect to awareness generation, we need to do go a long way. Still, there are insufficient policy integration. In the previous session, it was told we have the authority, but they need more powers to really implement some programs in the field. Inadequate funding and weak enforcement, everybody will agree with me. Traditional knowledge and practices are often overlooked, while ex situ and in situ efforts remain fragmented. It is almost resonate with my first point. But operationalizing farmers' rights and access benefit sharing is not a Himalayan task. Future looks bright. I want to be very optimistic, provided we enhance the legal frameworks and policies. We are effectively working for this. Continuation and recognition of in situ conservation efforts. Yes, we have done. We are the country with two important acts, Plant Variety Protection Act and also the Biodiversity Act. MSSRF participated in these deliberations and we were part of it, and the whole soul of the whole two acts is the benefit sharing, access and benefit sharing portfolios. Strengthening and widening ex situ preservation and characterization efforts. This is where there is a strong need for the scientists to handhold with the farming community. Characterization, it is not just molecular and phenotypic characterization, it is the nutritional characterization also, so that we can know what variety can give us the best nutrition as well. Increased focus on sustainable agriculture in biodiverse region. Main farmer systems is addressing the larger food security and other dimensions of our country, whereas this one, especially in biodiverse region, we need to encourage sustainable agriculture so that both can survive in the same ecosystem without any difficulty. Greater farmer participation and empowerment. This is what is again weaker. Technological advancement and innovation, whereas a lot of digital tools and other things are available, take it to the farmer and give it to them. International collaboration and harmonization with respect to research findings are concerned. Everybody need not reinvent the wheel. Basically, if we know that there is a wonderful core collections of a particular germplasm is available, and we must be able to strengthen it and take the benefits out of it. Similarly, when we know that this particular region is very rich with respect to these varieties and so on, we must be able to encourage the farmers to go a mile extra so that they can also get benefited. This is my last slide. Thank you very much. And with that, I will call upon the speakers.
Sri Dibal Roy Chowdhury is Joint Registrar, Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Authority, Government of India. He is closely working with the key stakeholders for facilitating the registration of plant varieties.
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to get an opportunity to talk before this august audience. Our chairman was supposed to come, but probably he is flying this afternoon to attend certain meetings at Hyderabad, so probably that's one of the reasons why he couldn't join us. So I'll be talking about the legal procedure for plant variety protection and farmers' rights in India. This was enacted in 2001, but when the discussions were going on after India signed the WTO agreement in 1995, it was the initiative of Professor Swaminathan's foundation to include the body of the farmers' rights into the plant breeders' rights. So it's a very unique initiative all in the world. Which you cannot see anywhere in the plant variety protection law or such a kind of law. You can see that this act has taken several important aspects from different instruments, the global understandings, like for example, a lot of things came from the CBD 1992, the ABS supplementary protocol and also the Nagoya protocol has given an effect into that. There are farmers' rights which came from Article 9 of the ITPGRFA, so on and so forth. And also it has an essence of the breeders' right. There is an international organization under WIPO, which is called UPOF, and they have 3 conventions. So earlier they used to have a farmers' privilege kind of concept. Now they have obliterated that. But India is still maintain that rights, and India does not believe in giving exemptions or privilege. So the rights are granted. So these, you can see, we also have domestic legislations which are also incorporated into it. So there are main 4 objectives. One is that to provide a effective system for protection of plant varieties, the rights of farmers and plant breeders, that to encourage the development of new varieties. So Professor Hariharan was talking about Article 9 of the ITPGRFA, which exactly has taken into the second objective to recognize the rights of farmers in respect of their contributions made at conserving, improving and making available plant genetic resources. And the third objective is basically to protect the plant breeders' rights, to stimulate investment in R&D and to develop new varieties. And that is the essence of the UPOV Act for public and private sector. And the holistic development of the growth of the seed industry to ensure that the availability of high quality seed and planting material are made available to the farmers. So these are the 4 major objectives, and these are certain provisions of the Act. You can see that there are breeders' rights as equivalent as farmers' rights. And nowhere in the world you can see there are farmers' rights are given. So India is unique in a sense that there are community rights and there are gene funds and recognitions, there are researcher rights and there are compulsory licenses. And then there are benefit sharing. So each of these sides are complement to each other. We also have several other important provisions for convention countries. There are offenses, penalties and infringements are given. Of course, same as in National Biodiversity Act, we also test the varieties for their distinctiveness, uniformity and stability parameters, and then there are about 203 crop species for which are eligible and are being tested at our 155 dust centers all across India. We have also established the National Gene Bank and the field gene banks. So I'm not going about all these things, but there is an important aspect which was talked about, which is called benefit sharing. Our benefit sharing is slightly different from what is enshrined in the National Biodiversity Act. That was the access and benefit sharing, and it is post-access. So here, if let's say a variety has been bred or developed by a breeder, maybe in public sector or in private sector, there is a mechanism that when the variety is developed and they send the application to us, and it has been tested in the field and found that the variety has been eligible for testing, then we go for let's say advertisement of that in our journal. Now in that particular thing, that the passport data of that particular variety has to be published, and in that passport data the applicant has to declare whether he has utilized any form of traditional material, land races or farmers varieties from any village or a local community, who has utilized that and where from he has taken. Until and unless he doesn't describe that, these benefit sharing provisions won't get affected. So that is one of the drawback into that, and most of the cases people do not acknowledge that, either it is in private sector or in the public sector. But there is another mechanism to make it enforced. I will talk into that. So the benefit sharing will be calculated depending upon the extent and nature and use of genetic material, and it will always be a case-to-case basis. The benefit sharing will be deposited in the National Gene Fund, which was established by the Government of India, and then the authority will go give that from the National Gene Fund to the claimant. If we talk about farmers' rights, you see that there are about 9 or 10 rights which has been given in our Act. There is an access to seed, there is a registration of a variety, reward and recognition for conservation of plant genetic resources, there is an element of compensation. That compensation is different from agricultural insurance, and benefit sharing. Of course, you can see there is a right of communities which is also enshrined along with the benefit sharing clauses. There is a compulsory licensing. Many of you are aware of the patents. So this compulsory licensing clause has been invoked in 2 cases of patents for drugs in India. Hopefully in near future, maybe, I do not know, that it will also be revoked for in any varieties in the times to come. The farmers are not required to pay any fee. So be it in variety registration, be it in testing, or in whatever the legal proceedings, the farmers are exempted from payment of any fee, and farmers are also protected from innocent infringement. So for example, if the farmers buy a seed from a company or a seed industry, and then they grow it and then try to sell it, then the company can take them to the court. Okay? But the farmer can establish that he is not actually aware of, the first case, that there is a breeder's right on it. There is an exemption from given the farmers from any prosecution. But remember, that's an innocent infringement, so he cannot do it on a repeated basis. So the first thing that you see, the lot of farmers varieties we have received all across India. So you see from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Gujarat to Manipur, every state, the traditional communities, individuals, they have sent applications for registration, and there is a whole basket of applications. So out of these, as on date, sir, we have registered about 4,090 varieties, and out of which 3/4 are rice. Thanks to Central Rice Research Institute and the government of Odisha, at that moment of time, Mr. Gopalan, an IS officer, was there who spearheaded these activities, and about 700 rice varieties were characterized at CRRI and then documented. Following that there are about 200 or 300 land races were also characterized and registered from West Bengal, at Chhattisgarh, from Assam, Manipur, so on and so forth. So, but apart from rice also, we are being registering the pulses, the millets, the floriculture crops, fruit crops, so on and so. You can see the crop basket is also there. As I said, for that, to recognize this importance of the Article 9 of the ITPGRFA, the Government of India has established a National Gene Fund. The National Gene Fund, the money is getting from the varieties which have been registered over here. So the annual fee payment are from, which are received from, let's say, private companies or seed sector. It has been deposited in the National Gene Fund. And from that money, actually 4 or 5 activities which is prescribed. You can see the Plant Genome Savior Community Award, reward, many of you are aware of it. There is also one provision where we can strengthen the panchayats in carrying out plant genetic resources conservation for sustainable use and activities. Benefit sharing, compensation, so on and so forth, these activities can also be undertaken. Out of which many of you are aware that we already have a running scheme called Plant Genome Savior Community Award. We give award and reward to farmers and communities. We are coming up with another scheme right now for supporting the community seed bank initiatives. The proposal has already been made to the Government of India, and hopefully we will be discussing with the government, and hopefully the government will also approve the way that we have presented it to it, and maybe in months to come this scheme will also be put into place. And then the benefit sharing and compensation are case-to-case basis. If we receive an amount of benefit sharing, we give the benefit sharing. If we receive an amount of compensation from companies or seed industry, we will give the compensation to the farmers. But the farmers are also being benefited in certain extent that I will tell you in this slide. As I said, we have a scheme for Plant Genome Savior Community Award, where the tribal and rural communities, those who are engaged in conservation, improvement, and preservation of genetic resources of economic plants and their wild relatives. So there is a mechanism, there is an advertisement, 28th is the last date, 28th February is the last date for this year, and we have already received certain applications. And then there are communities and there are individuals which also can be done. So in a year we can give about 5 community of 10 lakh rupees award. Those who are in MSSRF, they knew that we had a very fruitful association from the professor, and our Dr. Nagarajun was the first chairperson of our authority. From that day, 2007-8 onwards, the first the first community which was awarded was Panchavati Gramya Unnayan Samiti from this Koraput only. So we had a connection with this Koraput GS over here. So, but then one more community from Wayanad, I think the Pokkali Rice Developing Society has been awarded. But since then, sir, we didn't receive any kind of mentoring or hand-holding from MSRF. So my request to this organization, to the executive director and director operations over there who were concerned about how farmers can be benefited. So kindly energize communities and individuals and look after if they can be getting this kind of monetary award. I understand that there is an issue, legal issue involved in benefit sharing. But you see, that is also an indirect benefit sharing, I can tell you. So you can see there was an international program on farmers' rights on 23 September. Our Honorable President Madam had actually given this community an individual award to 5 communities and about 12 individuals. So you can see from on the top there is a community in West Bengal. On the right hand side there is a community who are actually conserving Kala Jeera, which is a medicinal species. And on the below you can see Mohan Bora, he is from Assam, he is a living encyclopedia on rice. He has established a rice gene bank at his home from near Jorhat. And there is the millet woman, the brand ambassador of the millet, who was also been awarded at that moment of time. So ours is a very small organization, so we need all of you people to handhold and to reach this kind of people. There are about 60,000 villages and 600 blocks in India, and we are about 15 to 16 people in Delhi. It is very difficult for us to reach all of them, right? So what we are doing is that right now we have engaged with the ICAR KVK system. There are about how many? 760 odd KVKs. And this month onwards, there will be a training program on farmers' rights, awareness, so on and so forth, on each and every KVK. We have given about 1.75 crore rupees already. The money has already been sanctioned, and they are, been doing. So, Professor, our chairman, is also going tomorrow to, participate in one such program. So, you can see that also in our Plant Genome Savior Community Award, you can see most of the communities are all across India. So, of course, from Kerala, there are a lot of communities because the awareness is much higher. It is not from MSSRF, but also from the Kerala Agriculture University, they have an IPR cell. So, that IPR cell also, make people aware of that. So, not only the communities, but also the individuals. A lot of individuals from Kerala has got this particular award. I was a member of the National Biodiversity Award. Of course, the government has scrapped it right now. But again, there are a lot of awardees also which were also given award from the PPB and FR authority. So that's so one single example of benefit sharing what has been done. So this is, one jackfruit variety called Siddhu. This variety is registered with us. You can take my presentation, don't worry, there is no need to take a photograph, ma'am. So this, the farmer is from Karnataka. So the farmer approached Indian Institute of Horticulture Research at Bangalore. Right now they are producing about 1 lakh, plants of that particular variety and selling at about 100 rupees for last 2 to 3 years. And the farmers are getting, particular farmer is getting 75% of that. So what is an amount it comes to? You see, that's a very significant amount of, benefit sharing which is coming from that single individual. So this is one of the aspects, though we work in the IPR system, but you see that we need to promote the varieties which have food and nutritional security. So apart from the varieties in the private sector, we also register farmers' varieties. The government of Odisha has made a mechanism to introduce these 4 millet varieties. The only problem in this seed act is that they don't recognize farmers' varieties as improved varieties. So there is a change in mindset which is required. If there is a clause can be introduced in the seeds act, then hurrah, everything will go. Every improved and good farmers' varieties can be put into the seed chain. So I hope that we should do it in near future. Thank you.
Shalini.
Madam Shalini has been working on issues of agriculture, biodiversity, gender equality, equitable trade and sustainable development for about 30 years. She joined FAO as a consultant in 2018 and is working as the senior legal researcher, policy analyst and project manager at the FAO country office. She is currently managing technical cooperation program on community managed seed system being undertaken in collaboration with the state government of Odisha.
Namaskar, good afternoon. I'd like to start by saluting the spirit of sisterhood and all the sisters, not only in Koraput, who are the seed savers, and most of them not only just share the physical material of seeds and the planting material, but also with it the ethic and principle of sharing, which is absolutely fundamental in designing any kind of benefit sharing and in any kind of legal regimes, any kind of alternative systems, and therefore that's where I'll start off with. The other thing is I would also like to acknowledge the kind hospitality of the MS Swaminathan Center. In 2002, when the Biological Diversity Act came, a few months after that, Dr. Swaminathan invited us to his center at Chennai for a consultation on setting up the first benefit sharing rules and ABS agreements And that's the first time I met him, a few months after the Biodiversity Act had come, and the biodiversity rules had not been legislated at that time or notified, which came only in 2004. And so many years later, we are still debating some of these issues. Nonetheless, I'd like to pay homage to him and his vision. But going forward, the key issue that the organizers have given us in this session is to look at a really narrow space in the wider discussions and discourses that are happening around these issues. One is that they have that we should talk about the Article 9 very specifically of the treaty. The treaty, as you know, has many other articles. This is the plant treaty, also called the seed treaty, or the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, and the farmers' rights within them. And then also focusing on how do all these provisions at the international and the national law really link up to globally important agricultural heritage systems, not generally, but in particular. And we've spoken about benefit sharing, but the question is it fair and is it equitable? Though that's the critical thing to ask, that is it a level playing field there? So quickly, I'll just run through the global instruments where the debates are on these issues currently at the global fora, and then draw a thread to some of the relevant national legislations, and then urge us all to look at a wider concept of benefits other than those that are simply defined in a narrow way in some of the international debates and the national laws. So a quick recap again of Article 9, and there are three fundamental aspects of farmers' rights that it lays down. One is, of course, the recognition of the contribution of farmers and indigenous communities. The second is that it makes it the responsibility of national governments, even though it was one of the first international law that recognized farmers' rights, but when it comes to implementation and interpretation, it is what is said in the yellow box there, subject to national legislation. That's why it becomes so critical to have national laws in place for that. And of course, the most fundamental aspect of farmers' rights is the seed freedoms, which are intrinsic to the material that they adapt and save and grow and regrow, and to have the freedom to continue to share amongst themselves and make diverse material available for the grassroots innovation and exchanges that need to happen. Now, there are processes that are ongoing at the plant treaty currently. One is around the whole Article 9 itself, and India is a key member in the ad hoc technical expert group on farmers' rights. And there's also a working group to enhance the functioning of the multilateral system, where India is the co-chair. So these are two important processes to watch. But as you see, since the Biological Diversity Convention came in 1993 to now, there have been two parallel developments in two parallel spaces. One, of course, within the CBD realm, and it matured into also a more recent global biodiversity framework in 2022, and very specifically a target 13, which talks about fair and equitable benefit sharing. But at the treaty level, there has been a benefit sharing fund that was, from the first times it started giving money was 2009, and there's a fourth cycle of funding that is happening under the benefit sharing fund. And there are a lot of issues around the multilateral system itself, how many countries are open to extend the coverage of the crops, food crops as well as forages, and discussions about simplifying the SMTA, or the Standard Material Transfer Agreement, when access happens through that. So the spaces to watch, in fact, one of them is happening right now while we are in the room, is at the Convention on Biological Diversity, where in a resumed session they are discussing the new multilateral mechanism for sharing. And later this year, the governing body 11 of the treaty would also take place, which will be a critical space to watch. Another frame to use is the Global Biodiversity Framework, which is a post-SDG imagination of where we want to take the global community in 2050. And there are very, very clear goals and targets on that, on sharing benefits fairly and equitably, which need to be incorporated into our national laws, strategy, action plan. In fact, the National Biodiversity Authority of India has also updated the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan to incorporate some of these goals and targets. But there are also very complicated debates on access and benefit sharing that are still unresolved at the international level, and that's why you don't see the extent of an expectation of the trickle-down effect on the ground to communities. So that continues to happen. I don't have the time here to go into each of those. But again, linking it back, as the previous speaker did, to some of the national laws, I think the farmers' rights chapter that is embedded in an IPR law is part of why it also looks the way it does. But the Biodiversity Act, which we're not really debating so much in this session, because we've been asked to stick to the Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers' Rights Act. But the Biodiversity Act is equally going through a number of changes currently, a more recent amendment, which also defines what are land races and folk varieties, which we need to look at more closely. And within the national law relevant to this space, as already mentioned, so I will not repeat this, the benefit sharing with respect to varieties that come from farming communities such as here, what kind of benefit sharing will happen will essentially depend on these 7 or 8 steps that are prescribed within the PPV and FR system. And I would like to close by saying that within the discussion on GIHS and using that space, there is scope and opportunity to look at a wider set of benefits that can accrue, other than these definitions and debates that are circumscribing what benefit should actually be. And it opens up the space for other ideas and initiatives, whether those are incentive mechanism, market opportunities, eco-labeling of farm produce coming from these areas, and also acknowledging the food cultures and giving them space within that. And therefore, looking at even non-monetary benefits, and there are 17 types which are even talked about in the CBD framework, which is under the Nagoya Protocol. So while we have this whole web of international laws and national laws, when we locate that in the context of GIHS, it really boils down to what is happening at the local level and what are the supportive schemes, programs on the ground closest to the communities. And Odisha state has shown a lot of leadership, whether it is with the standard operating procedure for land races and farmers varieties, the newly announced scheme for forgotten foods, the Odisha State Biodiversity Board and its rules, which also declare Gupteshwar Forest as a biodiversity heritage site, and recognizing women and seed keepers, as the center here is also done. Outside of the space of GIHS, there is also the other, the natural living world that needs to be seen. And so the discussion on benefit sharing and our responsibilities toward that, and also exploring opportunities, doesn't stop at the boundary of the GIHS, but even crop wild relatives and the interaction of the wild and domesticated, which is critical to keep the resilience of the system. So I'll stop here, but I'm happy to take the conversation forward with you all. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mr. Dinesh Balam, a well-known name in Odisha. So
Dinesh Balam has led VASAN for 25 years, fostering prosperity and ecological security in rain-fed areas through collaboration with communities, civil society, research, and government entities. He focused on smallholder farmers, farm workers, women, and tribal community. He is spearheading a grassroots movement in Odisha for the promotion of millet consumption.
Hello. Okay. So thank you, everyone. I think I don't know if it's a good thing if you're known well. So sometimes it doesn't help. But yeah, so let me just give you a context of, how should I say, context of the, like for example, the VASAN stands for Watershed Support Services and Activities Network. Just want to say that when we started our work, I think we played a very important role in bringing natural resource management into the, what we call into the forum. So we were one of the pioneering organizations. And we actually got many things wrong and quite badly. So to give you an example, one of the key criticisms that we received was when we do watershed management, we do the, you know, upland, midland, lowland, and you do the bunding and you do the trenches, etc., etc. What eventually happened in our case was we realized that we do a lot of NRM activities on the uplands. Those lands typically belong to the Dalits and the in the central part of the India, the most vulnerable communities. So they used to work as a labor in the Zamindari community, and they were given those lands where they could cultivate and eat. But basically, we dug up all those lands and we planted trees and etc. So basically, we increased the food insecurity. We made them more dependent on bonded labor. We actually reduced their income, so on and so forth. This is basically a scientific solution, work to perfection, creating a social crisis. You know, that was something that we contributed initially. So there were a lot of questions like how do so that brought in. We are kind of an organization which was very much a scientific bent of mind to start looking at other aspects of work. So I'm saying that's a background in which we started, and then we started what's called the Dalit watersheds, etc., etc. And when we started working on Dalits and etc., we realized what do Dalits eat? They eat millets. So okay, then what can you do about millets? So a lot of our work did not start as climate smart solution to ecological crisis. It started as addressing a social crisis, and that's what we have carried forth in most of our work. So next slide. It's how do I supposed to? So as I said, I would like to share a bit about the work that we did in Millets Mission. I'm primarily focusing on the conservation and the promotion of land races part. So without again getting into details, so we did one of the, I think IMR team is here. We worked along with IMR team, and Varaprasad sir was chair of our working group. So we did a reasonable large scale evaluation of on-farm evaluation of how land races are working. And we wanted to see what works in their context. And we developed what has been discussed as standard operating procedure, and we released some land races and etc. So what we primarily did, we did the participatory varietal trial in each of the 314 blocks, where we took all the land races with farmers, and we took the improved varieties also. We see how their performance were working. And we brought scientists, community, everybody together. I can get into the details. One interesting thing we noticed is when we say good seed, we are not asking good seed for whom. Because in PVT, we clearly found the definition of seed changes from each person. So males prefer something, aged female will prefer something. So there's a lot of variation in how the definition of seed is also there. And we also did a lot of technical analysis. Again, we were part of, we took a lot of ICR scientists along, and we have our plant breeders in our own team. But surprisingly, what we found that is there's a good amount of demand for land races. Not only that, and when we did these experiments over a period of 3 years, there are a good number of local varieties which are also performing better than notified varieties. This is not to say that notified varieties are wrong. It's just that the soil quality, the local situation, like Odisha gets affected by the both high rainfall during the season, also you have a returning rainfall in October. So all these things matter a lot when somebody prefers a variety. So we did reasonable amount of documentation. We figured out what is working, what is not. So these are some of the photographs. Through all these processes, we understood that, okay, now there are these well-performing varieties which are good in multiple angles. We also did the nutrition profiling of most of these varieties. So now we have in each block the varieties that work, that give you good yield. Let's say land races for lack of a better word. You have that also good nutrition. The point is, okay, now we should promote it. It doesn't make any sense not to do it. But then we realized that there is no system as such. So I'm very happy to get more questions, but we worked, it took like 3-4 years. It took a lot of debate and understanding. Varaprasad sir and others can give more scientific details on coming up with such a system, and we notified it. and we finally released 4 varieties. So we also did a mapping exercise. I think it's probably largest participatory mapping exercise with farmers. I don't know if in the country or not, but I'm told like that. We did it in around 500 remote villages of Odisha. So it's a reasonably exhaustive exercise. So we did this 4-cell analysis where in each village, how do they select crops, which crops they grow, which varieties they grow, in large area, large households, small area, many households, large area, few households, and etc. We asked them how to understand seed purity, how do they store, how they understand trash, how do they understand mixtures, what germination, moisture percentages. We did the documentation of also what you call cultivation for value, so on and so forth, cooking properties and etc. It's a reasonably exhaustive documentation. A lot of people were involved, and it took, I think 2 years to complete it comprehensively. Yeah. So this is how on-farm, on-field 4-cell analysis would look like. So there is technical part of it, there's a participatory process of it. Yeah. So, okay, this is the interesting part. Everybody was telling in the group we need to promote it. So for example, if you see the varieties that are marked in right, that is small area, many households, those are the varieties typically preferred by women. The reason they grow, most households grow it, but in small area, is because they want to use it for their own cooking. So similarly, each of the variety in the village landscape has a different way it works. So there are varieties that work in cropping systems, there are varieties which are cooking, there are varieties that are grown in terms of yield and etc. So one of the important aspects is the sociological aspects of varieties is not looked at. So if you want people to adopt, the question is not that should government support it or not. The question is how should they support it? And do you want them to give incentive? Because that's how the government would do it. Will that help? Will that not help? So the interesting question to ask is how should they support it? The form of the support is an interesting thing to debate. So I'm just putting it some of the pulses, but I'll leave it. So similarly, we found that the seed standard is also very, very different. So what farmers understand from their perspective, quality seed should look like is very different from what we understand as seed standard. They don't need complete purity. So now why I'm telling you all these things is, now when we look at varieties, seed standards, land race, typically you need to arrive at use. If there is no use of a land race, eventually it will go extinct. So then we also study different cropping patterns that we have in Odisha, different polycropping models. For example, this model I found it in Raigada, where in fact, sorry, this is, I have not put the right one, but we have a jowar, sorghum, people grow creeper black gram around jowar, then they intercrop with ragi, and they cross crop it with dolichos. So that actually gives them food throughout the year, and they have different varieties, different durations, and etc. So there are a lot of cropping systems that are possible. For example, we found certain cropping systems this is in south primarily, where the intercropping of different vegetables with other crops have ensured that not only they get good income, but it's also it's complementary to it. It has reduced the fertilizer use. So we have tried some intercropping models with 5-layer model with agroforestry plus crops plus poultry also. So this is giving a very good yield. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I did not touch the legal part of it because I thought my other 2 members would touch it. So the interesting question when we say access, can we ask these questions? What are the cropping systems that have economic value, also have a nutrition value, and where are the place of land races in such cropping systems so we can promote it? That will actually have a fundamental material difference in people's life. Can we think about land race access framework in that way? Second, as I said, even among the land races, women prefer certain type of land races. Now, if you want to increase dietary diversity, especially we talk about MDDW. So when we talk about these kits, can we look at localized screening, gender screening of land races and come up with that kind of a system where you supply those kits? So that would be very useful. Can we look at what kind of processes, for example, community would like to empower themselves? My experience has been, because in the interest of time, I'll not get into it. I think it is possible to come up with ecologically viable, economically suitable models which are easy to access for community. There are some technology tools that we need to work on. For example, if you have a if you have 5-6 crops, what kind of harvesters you would look at, what kind of technology should you look at, what kind of weeders should you look at, what would be what kind of weeders that would be allow you to detach it. So there is a lot of things that we are working on. So I think it is possible. I am slightly looking at beyond the government support system, and we have worked on forgotten foods also. I have not spoken about it. So we have engaged with lot of youth. Like we have our social media channel had maybe around 10 million views in general. We see a lot of people interested to come and doing it. In fact, we have our millet cafes now. One of the key items that is being sold is Dongarani pulse, more than millet, because people like the taste of it. So in general, I think around the axis, we need to perhaps come up with thinking which is not just about the laws and the government programs. I think there are many more exciting ideas, many more exciting technologies. This is something that we can work around. Yeah, thank you.
The farmers, Prashant, are you bringing the farmers? Yeah. Like this. Yeah. I request Prashant to introduce her and ask her to speak. Yeah. Introduce her first.
Sunamani. Sunamani Paraja. She is a custodian farmer. Mainly she focused on millet cultivation and also value addition to millets. She is trained on different varieties of millets dishes to prepare. So very long time since 2006 she is involved in this process and cultivating millets. So she will be recognized today in this forum. Please go ahead.
Sunamani, morna Sunamani porja Chindia Jinga, Kundra Panchayat, Kundra Bodok. Namaskar. Mai tas koluni mandia tas besi omorelani enti kola pokai kori choto beliaka ami line koluni. Line kolle sori ari badle sori ari tore kot deluni ari cycle cholai duni gas misa setki noye ari butek enti lokman ke misa butek loke no dore gas batsba ke besi omeresi moy bati mandia kolini ari sar mon morate tanu bati mandia kini kori bian dele ebe बिहान सबके मुई बाटली आमर ओडिशा के सबू लोग मोर बाटी मंडिया बिहान का नेलाइनी एबे मिसा एबे गुली लगे एंती गोबर कोत माटी गोबर ऐसे एंती चुटी करी आमी रोकलू नि बिहान मंडिया अरी से दिन आइले सरी बेटी करी पोला फकाइलू नि.
Telling that actually Bati Mandia, that is a recently released variety named as Kundra Bati, because this, most of the farmers in Kundra, they are the custodian farmers of Kundra Bati. So that is the major aspect of releasing this variety out of 4. This is the one of the variety, and she is telling still now also I am producing those seeds of those varieties and I am giving to other farmers. So that is the major aspect. She is keeping the seeds of her own in the seed bank and giving to other farmers.
लाइन कोलू निजे अरी लाइन को लेखा बोल बोली आमी 30 वर्षेला बे हमर बाटी मंडिया न छाडू आमी 30 वर्षेला 30 वर्ष को बाटी मंडिया आमी न छाडू कोरा तास मिसा कोलू नि से हमर जगह লন্দি লগে আছে ফানি আছে তেবে বাটি মন্ডে এবে মিশা লোন কলু আছু
Yeah. Last 30 years they are cultivating this particular variety. Even if rabi crop also, they are doing it where there is water, and it is giving good yield. So thanks for conserving this variety as a custodian farmers. Thank you. Budra Pradhani, another farmer. Yeah. I introduce him, Budra Pradhani. He also belongs to Kundra and Wagada village. He is also a progressive farmer, and he works long-term association with the MSSRF as a volunteer till now. A community resource person. He is working with the, on millet cultivation process with the Odisha Millet Mission. Continuously, he is involved in that process.
समस्त सामको मोर नमस्कार मोर ना अच्छी बुद्रा प्रधानी ग्राम अच्छी नुआगुड़ा पंचायत अच्छी लिमा ब्लॉक अच्छी कुंद्रा मु प्राय 10 वर्ष है स्वामीनाथन सहित जड़ित ये कम कर जोटा कि आगे धान चाषी मान धान लगा एसएमआई उपरे धान कराउला 2017 रु मांडिया जो आमर ओडिशा मिलेट मिशन आरंभ है 2017 रु जितेबाला आम केते फार्मर मन को लेकिन केतेटा भेराइटी आम नहीं सिलेक्शन करूँ जोटा कि आज पर्यंत से बंचिकी आसूसी जो बाटी मांडिया है बड़ मांडिया एमती केते जिनस आम 2017 रु ओडिशा मिलेट मिशन जितेबाला कार्यकाल है से आम लोकल भेराइटी ही आम अंचल चाषी मान को लगाइबा को दिया उचित.
So he is telling actually different varieties they are cultivating. When during 2017 Odisha Millet Mission was started in this area. So he not only Bati Mandia, other varieties of land races of millets also he started cultivated and produced and gave to other farmers. So in that process is still going on and he is involved in that process.
वर्तमान 3 वर्ष कंटिन्यू आम जमी रे कराउछि जोटा कि आईएमआर आउ स्वामीनाथन आउ आसम तरफ जते जो भेराइटी अच्छी आमर 120 प्रकार भेराइटी दिया थिला फर्स्ट वर्ष से वर्ष खराई थिला आउ ए वर्ष जोटा कि 60टा भेराइटी दिया एबे रिसर्च चलछि जोटा आमर तली पकईबाटू धरिकी आमर केमती लगा हुए केते मीटर रु केते मीटर लगा हुए तार गचर हाइट पर्यंत ताकू मपा जाउछि जोटा कि आमर लोकल बिहन आउ जोटा कि विदेशी बिहन को लेकिन 62 प्रकार बिहन कराई ताकू जेंति कि आमर अंचल भल बिहन जोटा बाछिबा पई सेटा उद्यम चलछि.
So already Dinesh presented that IMR, MSSRF and Government of Odisha. So jointly involved in this characterization process. First 120 accessions. There was a comparative study with the held varieties and land races. And this year also 62 varieties, the accession, 62 accessions in the field. In their own field, it is done. The comparative study is going on. So he is very closely involved there in that process.
आउ आमर छोट ग्रीन बैंक टी अच्छी जोटा कि आमर जेते भी आमर अंचल चाषी माने जो कि मांडिया हो धान हो मका हो जे कोनोसी आमर सीड सेटा ही आमे ग्रीन बैंक रे रखा होची जो कि आमर जते बेले चाषी माने जो खाइबा पई ही करूथिले जोटा कि बिहन पई केबे भी चाषी माने ताकर ज्ञान कौशल नथिला जोटाकि आमर MSS स्वामीनाथन जितेबाला गाँ मानक रिसर्च करागला से सीट केमती रखा हुए पुनर्भर आउ पुणी केमती से लोकल सीट को भल सीट भाव में केमती करा हुए से प्रकार आमको तालीम देइछन्ति आउ एबे वर्तमान आम सीड बैंक अच्छी छोट सीड बैंकटा आमर जोटा कि अल्प परिमाण रे बिहन रखाई आउ बेसी परिमाण रखापी आमको बड़ दरकार आउ मजबूत दरकार से आम आउ गवर्नमेंट को दिखाई आमर धान सीडटा 30 प्रकार जो आमर PVTR टेग आउ मांडिया गोटे 20 प्रकार दिखाई सेटा आम गवर्नमेंट को रिकवर कर.
So actually is studying about seed bank concept that was started in their village, and earlier they had that concept was not there, so they are using grain as seeds and all. So now they are collecting good seeds and keeping in the seed banks, and now they have submitted through our institution 20 varieties of millets to PPFRA for registration, and also 30 varieties of rice land races for registration. So all these varieties are grown in that particular village. Thank you, Budra, for coming this statement.
Thank you, Prashant, for this help. Now the session is open for discussion. Those who wanted to put questions, please. Yeah, give him the mic.
Small clarification, sir. Between the Seeds Act, which was enacted in 1966, and the PPFRA 2001, so as a result of nearly 30 years, the definition for seed and definition for variety, I think they require harmonization because they are defined in different ways. So because in 1956, the knowledge about seed and variety was something different, but PPFRA was improved. Therefore, the Seeds Act should get amended. The definition for seeds and variety should get amended according to PPFRA.
I think this is coming in every session. Dr. Oliver?
Thank you. I'm actually Dr. Hari. I'm just trying to connect the previous session, some of the thing, and the current session. Set aside all the legal progress that we are making. One thing is very clear that taking lesson from Dr. Konda and Dr. Shalini, the last point they have made, there is a need for globally important heritage aspect to the local heritage system. You are referring to creating ecocentric opportunity, entrepreneurial opportunity, ecotourism, sort of a thing. The other side is that Dr. Kuldeep was referring to a kind of niche-based biodiversity livelihood. I think there is a reference, Dr. Varaprasad and Dr. Kuldeep, they were referring to nature positive solution and niche-based biodiversity solutions. I think, one side we are making a progress in terms of varietal registration through varietal authority, and Dr. Roy also hinted on there is some limitation. Beyond that, taking back to the community, immediate benefit to the community, there are methods that we need to look at it. Professor also hinted, I'm referring to Professor Swaminathan, more livelihood-based approach in the context of agrobiodiversity. That is where we are talking about this 4C concept. It's actually all these thought processes are gelling there. And the connect with this also we have discussed with, discussing with, trying to connect with Dr. Konda. In the country we have, sit down. In the country we have globally important agricultural heritage system, but we agree that there is a disconnect. Local heritage system recognition is still missing. And since the inception of recognition at the national level, Koraput, Kutnad and Saffron Valley, there is no guidelines and instruments to recognize the local heritage system. This one case is Wayanad or Koraput or Malkangiri, where we all work. That agroecology, probably Dinesh showed a picture. That's a kind of a landscape where the ethnic communities, the landscape, the ecology. That is where the agrobiodiversity actually there, and that is eroding. So my point here is ending there. Can there be an opportunity that at the end of the day we can connect the nature positive solutions, the people they are actually having it, niche-based biodiversity management, and then connecting, recognizing the local heritage system. So that is probably one way of actually creating sustainable and inclusive livelihood for the people for whom we are actually talking about. I think certainly legislation mechanisms will take its road in long run, and we are making a progress lot of. But on the livelihood side, sustainable livelihood side for the community, professor used to say that management, the co-management of resources by the community, that will really help. But one thing we all agree that in fact there is no guidelines to connect the globally important heritage system to the local heritage system. So what is needed? Probably as a team, Vasan and Odisha and MSSRF and other actors, ICRISAT, IAMR, there are many players, Manage, Madam is here. We need to, as an outcome of this one, probably we need to deeply dwell on that. What kind of heritage system, probably Dr. Varaprasad is here. We have been discussing when we are discussing about the forgotten food. I think the same thing also appeared there. We do not have a local heritage system concept and the guidelines for that. So probably I submit there and probably we can consider it.
Thank you, Oliver. This is a very important suggestion. Coupled to this, foundation always focus on promoting systems approach. It is not a crop or a particular variety or what. We always focus on systems approach. Many of our program areas are also titled as coastal systems research, like that. So when we talk about systems approach, but I'm answering Oliver, I wanted to draw the attention of the larger audiences also here. Thanks to the efforts of Professor, and we were able to get the GHA, Globally Important Agricultural Heritage System recognition for Koraput, our Kuttanad region in Kerala, and also for the Saffron Valley. We got the recognition, but how much we are successful in translating that global recognition into a kind of facility that can really help the farmers to say, yes, this is a globally important agricultural heritage system. Now we have every right to conserve our materials and so on. So even at the global level, when we receive recognition, at the local level, at the, at least in the region, we need to create a lot of awareness. And within the country also, there should be a lot of, in the biodiversity and biodiversity ecology dimension, nowadays you may see a lot of water bodies are getting recognized as Ramsar sites. When the Ramsar sites are labeled, after that, at least there are some conservation status that are given to them. Similarly, through you, I recommend to PPVFRA authority to consider if when within the when PPVFRA or through the ministry, if you recognize this is a important site, then some conservation status, and also with the geotagging and others are available. At least we must be able to showcase one model. Yes, because of these things now we are able to raise the bar with respect to conservation, livelihood opportunity, and also infusion of novel technology. This is also an addition I wanted to add on. Yeah.
So, hello. So I want to perhaps put it slightly bluntly, and maybe I think it's important to be candid. One has to be useful. See, like for example, most of my life has been trying to see how you can bring them into mainstream. Operationalize things is where I've spent a lot of time. So I think sometimes we are, like the people in this room and including me, we are running against the zeitgeist. Now, what I mean by zeitgeist is, if you take the fundamental principle by which the world operates today, it is the convenience. So Google search is not the best engine, ChatGPT is not the best AI, So what succeeds in life, like Zomato may not be even best technology. What succeeds almost always in the current world, in every segment, is convenience. The more convenient it is, the quicker, the greater success. So the one thing that I've always, battled, within the system is, if you look at the digital technology, why is everybody fascinated by it? It's the easiest way to do things. So, but whereas the biodiversity by definition is complex, slow, systemic. So I'm saying it's one challenge we have is how do you translate these ideas to a system which operates on convenience? Because like for me, I found the land races to be very easiest. The one good thing that came out of Odisha Millets Mission is not just that we are doing millets. Now, before every government program today does not have mandated SRR. So they are like, if they don't say it openly, but they say that we'll give incentive to the farmer, let farmer use whatever variety they want. So, which was not there before, but that's the way around we worked. We could not say that please supply local varieties. And then we worked at the back end with the community seed banks and all of that. So I think one lesson that I would say is that interesting thing to ask us is this: how do you work, or how do you make, let's say, global agriculture heritage? If you go and tell government, they say yes, we should do something. What that something will always end up giving some DBT to some seed bank, So in a system that doesn't have patience, in a system that operates on convenience, how to think about it? I think because of my experience, because forgotten foods also, like, who would have imagined government would adopt forgotten foods and all, but I think I would be very happy to work with, because at least operations part, at least I'm reasonably clear how to get these things done. The natural farming thing has come up. So Vasna is also anchoring PMU there. So we would be very happy to work with people, take GIHS, and maybe we have the BHS, especially in the forgotten foods, we have the Gandhamardhan Parvat and the Koraput, and the Gupteshwar and Simlipal are BHS, Biodiversity Heritage Sites. Would be very happy to work together to come up with, to begin with, operationally viable practices on GHS. That is something I would be very happy to work with whoever is interested, because that's also my area of interest. My view is, I don't want to take more time, is it can be done. I was perhaps 5 years ago, I would thought it is not possible, it can be done. But it would need a lot of ingenuity, creativity, knowledge, networking. But we would be very happy to work on it. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Dinesh. Yes, you have to.
Yeah, sorry. It's a very common criticism for PPV and FR authority, and we received it at every forum, that despite the act being there since 2001 and the authority established 2005, there is no clear-cut case of benefit sharing. Perhaps the idea starts from you, sir. You said that the Seeds Act 1966 and the PBBFR Act, they do have a different understanding of the seed. The farmers' varieties, traditional varieties, land races, at many times they are homogeneous but heterozygous, many times their population. So that definition doesn't fit into the breeder's understanding and put into the seed chain. So unless and until there is a different mechanism for doing that, you may not have, these land races going into the seed chain. So then how do we get benefit sharing? If the varieties are farmers' varieties and there are improvement on that. I can give you an example. Indira Gandhi Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, they have developed 4 traditional varieties, improved selections. Tarun Bhog Selection 1, Badshah Bhog Selection 1, the JNKVV, Jabalpur, they have improved Chinnor, some varieties. These varieties are actually mutant of traditional land races. And I have seen those varieties are doing phenomenally well. But then, thanks to Dr. Kuldeep Singh sir, he said that Government of India has a mechanism for, Seeds Act, giving subsidies for production and giving the seeds back to the farmers at a much cheaper rate. I would definitely see that it is a form of benefit sharing which the farmers are. Why I say it is an indirect one? I have seen 14,000 applications in our authority. Not a single public sector has declared that they have ever utilized any traditional material. So you cannot only blame the adjudicator that why there is no benefit sharing, unless and until there is a claim. And also there has to be a claim from a benefit seeker, right? So how this mechanism goes on, sir? I give you a very small, I have shown one case, but there are, a couple of case studies. For example, that this Pokali rice farming community, they conserve this traditional salt-tolerant rices. Everybody knows. IRI has identified the salt-tol gene from that, and there are several QTLs which has already been identified. Those has been transferred to India. CSR, the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Kerala Agriculture University has developed several salt-tolerant rice varieties. So the PPBFR, through this mechanism of Plant Genome Savior Community Award, gives a 10 lakh rupee award to this particular community. Where from this 10 lakh rupee comes? It is the varieties which are registered by the public sector and private sector. There is a mechanism of annual fee which has been given, right? So this money goes to the National Gene Fund. And from that, we give this award. Simultaneously, I give you another example. So these are registered varieties. But there are also different cases where varieties are not registered. So is there anybody from Tamil Nadu? So there is a hill banana, Sirumalai, probably people might be knowing. So there are two varieties which were going extinct due to bunchy top virus and so on, so forth. So NRC Banana, this ICR Institute have approached them, and they made virus indexing and give certain amount of planting material. But since the varieties were going out of that, the farmers did not, are interested to grow that. But that those two varieties were very important for a very small period of time when there is a temple puja or something like that. Sorry, Palani Hills, correct. So I forgot. I am aged, so I am getting forward. So then PPBFR, when this organization and NRC approached that, we found that if we can support this particular community, then they may, wipe out these disease infested plantations, and that they, renew those kind of activities. So they were given. Simultaneously, if there are wheat breeders, like there is also a Pali village somewhere in Jeypore or so, that is also again the source of the salt-tolerant wheat varieties. And then these communities are awarded. So what do you see, that you think that this is not benefit sharing? We feel rather than it is a sort of benefit sharing. So unless and until the applicant, ICR Institute, the public sectors, the private sectors emphatically claim that they have utilized the traditional variety, and simultaneously the communities or individuals say that under section 26, give us a benefit sharing, these things won't work. So that's it. So there has to be two-way looking into. Yes, sir.
Right. Dr. King, you're egging us in the right direction. Your critical word that you've used and the conversation we are having in the context of GIHS is the critical word is heritage. And that's where we develop the alternative language and lexicon. Let me give you an example, an analogy. The Archaeological Survey of India declares protected monuments, where it has 3,679 monuments in India, which it protects. Under the Act, it says that around the protected monuments, there are certain things you cannot do, right? So the minute, for instance, the Taj Mahal, firstly, you have to have electrical run battery cars there. You cannot have, smoke and diesel and carbon fumes, right? So you stop that. You generate, for their guides and the training and the interpretation center, you generate livelihoods around the Taj Mahal, right? Similarly, when you declare something as a heritage site, there are things around the periphery and in it which are a no-no. What if you declare a locally agrobiodiversity heritage site? We have the provision, section 37 in the Biological Diversity Act, nationally, it's a national law, right? You declare that, which means within that agricultural heritage site, you cannot sell other varieties other than the local land races. So you already have a space. The law might be trying to catch up with it, but there are other spaces where the thinking is far ahead. The international peasant movement, La Via Campesina, have stopped talking about peasant justice and biodiversity justice in the language of rights. They are not talking about IPRs. They're talking about seed stewardship, custodianship. They're talking about shared responsibilities. And that's what the ethic of sharing that I was talking about. This is a shared responsibility because it's a collective biocultural heritage. So every one of us has to play a role in it, not just the conserver, custodian, farmer. And not just one piece or 10 grams of that seed which is deposited in a DUS testing can be the hope of benefit. It has to be a much wider landscape, area-based approach. And that's the promise of the GIHS and having a systems and a site-based view, not the fragmented. I mean, look at the international debate. They're fragmenting the knowledge, the digital genomic sequencing from the genetic material. These debates have gone on from 30 years since I got my law degree in 95 to now. You know, those debates are going to continue at the international level. But at nationally, the challenge and locally is to take that heritage approach, take that forward. What does that mean in nuts and bolts? If you declare something heritage, what does it mean? What you can do and cannot do? There is promise and there are good guidelines in the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Peasants and People Working in Rural Areas. I would urge you to look at the detailed Article 19, which is essentially on peasant rights and responsibilities around peasant rights on seed and responsibilities of governments and states and local bodies vis-a-vis in their responsibility to realize those rights on land races and traditional varieties. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Professor Varaprasad.
Yeah. Just a few remarks. Shankaran Garu, 20 years Parliament did not pass a seed bill. What you are told, this is 20 years, minimum 20 years. So that is every time it is there, bill remains as a bill. It never becomes act. So what you said is right. The efforts are there. Since it is seed is a sensitive commodity in India, linked to the private industry, it's not moving forward. There are certain hard clauses in that seed bill. That's why it's not going forward. That's a specific answer. Coming back to the point of Dinesh, what you said, I like it. I will give my own example. There is about 30-40 years back, GCH4 castor hybrid released from Gujarat is even now cultivated in Andhra Pradesh, not because there are no other hybrids. 5 times more yielding hybrids are available with IOR, but if there is no seed access, there is no use of talking. Yeah, he is from, I am from IOR. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that we have, by the month of April or May, GCH4 seed is available in every shop in rainfed areas. If you don't make the seed available, you have it, you keep it in track, in rack.
Go down.
It has of no use,
Yes.
absolutely no use. So what you said is convenience is important. And in the last 40 years, I have not seen the most favorable climate for traditional varieties as on today. I can name people, leadership now. Dr. Kuldeep Singh is there, Dr. Mahapatra is there, then Dr. Tara Satyavati is there, then you have, every leader today is positive, but the point is who will bell the cat?
They are not here.
No. No.
Of course, they are not here, sir.
No, you are there. You are there, Dr. Mahapatra is there.
No.
Oh.
But then it has to come from the Agriculture Ministry.
Nothing ministry. That's what the point I am making. Sir, the point exactly I am making is that point.
Sir, I
You
have
don't-
taken your points.
Yeah.
The whole idea of this consultation is to develop those kind of recommendations and reach out to the right level policymakers.
No, don't wait for any act.
Yes.
Make the seed accessible. That's all, single slogan.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is one key recommendation we can take, and you can make a quick question.
So, I think the presentations, for instance, Shalini's presentation was so technical. I was struggling, the law, and I was wondering how will farmers understand? I am struggling with it. And you are talking of international, India, this, that, and, the whole circle, and then what India has done. So, who's going to educate the farmers? What about the farmers' unions? They are talking of higher price, but is anybody saying anything about educating farmers about their rights? So that apparently is not happening. So I don't know too much about agriculture, but I'll talk about an act which is similar, that is the Forest Rights Act. Now, there is a community called the Baigas in Chhattisgarh and MP who have knowledge of traditional medicine and jadi booty and all of that. And they have been using it. Now, they have become a PVTG, a particularly vulnerable tribal group. So their numbers are going down. They are afflicted with a lot of problems, and the next generation is now not interested. So they are going to get extinct. When they get extinct, all the knowledge will go, So this is what we are heading at, This is what we are heading at, because PVTG communities, all of them are on the road to extinction, in spite of the ambitious PM Janman scheme. I mean, I don't think there'll be a great lot that was achieved. But the Forest Rights Act, interestingly, offers the scope for what is called CFRMP, Community Forest Rights Management Plans. Tribals can prepare a management plan on how they will utilize the forest resources, the NTFPs and all of that. And that is guaranteed by the law. So similarly, and there are institutions which are educating tribals on their rights under FRA. So similarly, I think, just to conclude this, APU, Azim Premji University, has set up an FRA school where they give training on Forest Rights Act to people who are working on forest rights. Yeah. So if there is a farmers' school which educates about acts, then that will be useful. Then I have one question for Mr. Chaudhary, that in one of your things you said the issue is referred to the collector. So then what happens? I mean, is there a time-bound thing a collector has to respond in so much of time? Because otherwise it is referred to the collector and then it stands there. So that is again a loose end.
So sir, when there will be a case, I will get back to you. So see, the acts are made always on a good understanding. But they need to understand that the implementation process is go to the collector. This is not going to, work. This is my understanding. Of course, not to be quoted.
Yeah, we can take one or two more questions.
This is to Dr. Dilip from PPVFR. Sir, you have mentioned now people are sponsoring training to KVKs to educate the farmers about the laws. My suggestion is there are some award-winning farmers. They can be used as a master trainer.
Yeah. Of course, we asked the KVKs to contact. We had a list of these farmers, of course. Yeah. So most of the cases, the KVKs will have one or two farmers from their locations, those who are already awarded or rewarded, and not only from PPPFRA but by other forums as well. So they will be used for that.
Once if the word spread from the farmer's mouth, then the fellow farmers
correct.
will accept.
They
can
course.
be used as a
they understand their language, so say hearing is believing.
Yeah. The next one is a small suggestion. As Dr. Varaprasad said, seed bill took 20 years. Like that. Now every time farmers are coming to my institute, I am from Indian Staff Rice Research. One of the demands put forth by the farmers is, sir, when government will implement MS Swaminathan Commission recommendation like that. I said, God only knows that thing when we recommend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, my question is to Mr. Dinesh. You were mentioning something, study you have done, you had done for varietal preference of male and female farmers for seed varietals. So just would like to know some highlights of that. What are the varietal preference of male and female farmers? And something more on gender screening of land races. What are the criteria or parameters that you study in that, and what are the outcomes, results of that?
I think I'll add a couple of points I have before that answer question. So, like coming to sir's point, I think I agree. What I was trying to say, sir, is that if you look at anywhere India has made like unbelievable progress, like IT. IT became successful, then the law was formed. So wherever laws were first framed, that area has not moved really well in our country. So that is part one of the problem. So the second thing, sir, where I would need all of your suggestions is that, like, for example, I recently met some researchers who are looking at AI, recipes, and etc. The interesting thing that they were telling me is that, and what I at least what I am working with them is, okay, you have this huge 1-2 lakh database, etc., in vitro studies. So they're saying that now you can, through AI and etc., you can figure out processes by which people can have better nutrition without extra cost on the cooking methods. So there's a lot of, I'm saying technology has its own problems, but if you can creatively, so I think a lot of interesting answers on heritage sites, diversity, forgotten foods, great potential. So I would also look forward to working with this August House on those items. Really, really great potential. And of course, one generally pessimistic for the government on all these matters. On the second question, madam, in the gender screening of land races, we are looking at following thing. So there is evaluation, there's a different criteria. Like when you evaluate, we'll ask them what is that you're looking at, like, because you cannot ask very technical questions. It has to be visual, right? So for example, they would select varieties which grain size is bigger, which yield is bigger, and on different points of the time, like preferably after the third weeding, because we keep getting farmers throughout the season, and we'll see how they'll react. Because they say that, especially in ragi, the bigger the size of krual, the better the taste. That's their understanding of it. And also some varieties they know, because again it varies from, if you're making pejo, it is different. If you're making some other snack is different. Some varieties of ragi can be very crisp. So they would like to, if they're making some muruku, they would like those varieties. So there are different ways. And there are a lot of standard tools on how you can do this screening. That is on the evaluation, right? Second is on the, in general, for example, what you grow. Now what you grow again has different criteria. For example, one of the challenges that we have had, I agree all the people who worked in Millet Mission will agree with me, is that challenge that I also had convincing the government is, most farmers don't want to shift a crop completely, right? They would not want to move rice from millet. That generally doesn't happen. What they want to do is, if you ask them, can you add 5 lines of millet, right? 6 lines of millet in your existing crop, they are okay to it. Would you like to do a border cropping? There are multiple aspects of it. Like I remember one time when we did cotton mapping, when cotton marketing has 100 players, you get, somebody gets the labor, somebody gets the accommodation. So the business, the crop ecosystem is much more complex than crop genetics. So people don't like to change. Now there again, how people see crops, varieties in cropping systems is again different. For example, if people are going sugarcane, before it goes also you can have a short duration, little millet and a lot of other crops. There are experiences on that. So the gender screening will have it will be different on evaluation. It will be different on on cooking. It will be different on millet garden. Like for example, you're trying to promote millet garden in schools. There what you would like to eat, which crop, which variety. So there are multiple things. Similarly, in that slide, I briefly mentioned about organoleptic properties, storage properties. So these are across multiple domains. There will be different parameters on which there will be differentiated understanding on seed, which I think is not how seed is generally looked at, which comes back to the point that Varaprasad sir has made often, and which I've learned from him, is that we have in this, the agriculture has reduced seed to a germplasm where the world transforms it into knowledge system. This is all knowledge system. Which crops, which variety, which cropping systems, cooking methods, and etc. So we are trying in our own way bring it back.
So rightly said, it starts from the seed, but after that there are several. Oliver, you want to make a quick point?
Yeah. Just happy to hear from Dr. Roy. Is that the scheme that he referred to, the support for community seed bank? That is the most wanted one for very, very long time, sir, because given that the NGO effort at small scale or project based, it ceases out at some point in time. That is the most wanted one. This is what we are hearing from communities and many other stakeholders across the country. That is number one. The other move is that the section 45 and rule 70, that empowering panchayat, that is also where we have to actually really make a move. These two things, at the micro scale and the landscape scale, that will be really working for us. And then we can have alignment with the heritage concept. That is most wanted one. Please move from this angle, sir. Yeah, this is.
So actually, in this scheme, we are trying to look into whether, like a lot of communities are managing gene banks, community seed banks, and whether panchayats can also manage that one. We have not yet arrived, since that government has to first, approve that particular scheme, because a scheme has to run long amount of way, and there has to be a financial component. So let's see, in a way, urging everybody that they should also push government to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody will agree that this is a very, enriching session, and thank you, speakers. But I have a very quick request to Prashant. Whenever the custodian farmers are coming and speaking, very nice to hear saying that we are cultivating this many varieties, we are closely working with MSSRF and all those things. But can you quickly get one of them to tell what are all the challenges they face? This access and benefit sharing, they have to tell what is the problem. Can you get it?
Yeah, already in the pronunciation, some of the challenges Raimati has focused. Raimati can.
No, don't go look into Raimati. There are other farmers also. Speak to them. Get their view on.
Okay.
If it is possible, one challenge from them.
One is Budra is sitting over there.
Yeah, anyone.
Okay.
You tell him. You translate.
कौन असुविधा रहुଛି
ସାର୍ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର ବିହନ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ସମାନ ସମୟରେ ପହଞ୍ଚିଲେ ଯାଇକରି ଆମର ଯେଉଁ ଚାଷୀ ଭାଇମାନେ ଭଲ ଆଗକୁ ଗଢ଼ି ପାରିବେ। ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଆଗାମୀ ଦିନରେ ଏବେ ବର୍ଷା କମି କମି ଯାଉଛି। ଗୋଟେ ଚାଷୀ ଯଦି ତାର କମ୍ ସମୟ ଅଛି, ଯଦି ସେ କେମିତି ବିହନ ପାଇବା ଦରକାର।
One of the challenge he is focusing that access to seed, quality seed, where farmers are not getting quality seed in time, because there is a climate variations is there, rainy days are reducing, and farmers are not getting seeds in time. That is the major challenge, and even if short duration varieties, like because the rainy days are coming, that is the.
Seed banks, they have to make it available in time. So why they are bringing governments?
Yeah.
What they're saying, not getting quality seed, that means you are bringing the governments again back into the system. Is that right? We ask him what's actually is. When we are saying we have community seed bank, and then we are complaining that we are not able to make the seeds available, is that not contradictory?
So there are short duration varieties in traditional land races also for rice. Land races, about 100 days.
Yes.
So whether they have the seeds, in the community seed bank, you need this is the crucial point.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
sir. Actually, the point is, whatever the Odisha example we are quoting, but still the progress is very slow, let me tell you. The main objective is to provide quality seed of land races. We are not talking of improved varieties. So, no, there is a variety with them, that's not all mixed. So there is no standard operating procedure for making it quality seed access to them. Neither we built capacities, nor we made a system where they should be able to empower themselves. See, don't say seed is with you, community bank is with you. If it is not supplied, it is your fault. No, we can't say that. See, now what I am saying is most of the land
Can't
races.
we take one as a system then? Pick up one system and we say we make it absolutely workable.
That is what is
That's what we
called
see.
as a land race seed system.
See.
That is what is called as land race seed system,
Right.
where standard operating procedures are clearly defined,
See,
including seed production, quality seed production. So, but it is only on paper. It has not gone yet to the community seed banks. It has not gone yet for capacity building. It will go, but that's a real challenge. I agree with that. No investment.
Sir, in the morning, one of the farmer, he himself told that in the community seed bank also, they are sharing the seeds. So the farmers, those who are getting the seed should repay the seed. That is not happening. So one of the farmers was telling that also. They have to give back, no? So they have to get it one part means they have to repay 2 or 3 parts, but they are not repaying that seed. So if they are not repaying the seed, then the next for the next season they cannot get the seed in the even in the community seed bank.
One last comment from Madam.
No, this is just a sharing from FAO side. In FAO, we have an indigenous peoples unit.
Maharji, please. Maharji, please.
In FAO, we have an indigenous peoples unit, and they are running a program called a biocentric restoration program, which is with local communities and looking at a holistic approach of biorestoration through food cultures, etc. So you're welcome and to engage with that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And with this, we can close this session.
Sir, one announcement that one of the farmer award is with us, Sunamani. So she will be recognized in this forum, in this session today.
We will do.
So
All of us can join.
yeah. Come to the front. Sunamani. Srimati Sunamani Paraja is the preserver of Kundravati Mandia. Sunamani Paraja, an Adivasi woman from Chandia Jeligaon in Odisha's Kundra block, provides quality seeds to other farmers with the help of the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. She has been trained in high quality farming practices and scientific methods, so that she has made a significant contribution in enhancing the skills and income of the farming community of about 5 villages in her area. Her contribution is commendable as she has inspired the field of good seed conservation by managing community seed banks. Then I request Chair to offer the appreciation, token of appreciation to all the panelists.
Okay. It's my pleasure.
Mr. Dilens Balan is panelist today. Yeah. Next, Saleni Bhutani, to Saleni Bhutani.
Automatically the pink is chosen.
9:30 we are starting.
Yeah. Next to Dr. Dipal Ray Chaudhary. Thank you, ma'am. Next, Budra Pradhani. Sir, please. Next, I request Dr. Dipal Ray Chaudhary to present a token of appreciation to Chair. So there is one announcement before closing this session. Tomorrow the session will start at 9:30 sharp. So I request all the delegates to be here at least 5 minutes before. And now we are having a cultural event. One of the cultural group from Kundra block, they will perform the tribal folk dance just in front of our HRD center. So please join tea there and enjoy the cultural evening today. And after that, the dinner will be served here. So after dinner, all the delegates can, who are staying in Hotel Signature, can move there. So, yeah? Evening. So,